Good Friday morning to all of you out there. Will Dupree coming to you from the KXAN live studio, and look at what we have right here next to me. This is Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. This is the scene where the big game will be played on Sunday. Of course, we're talking about the Super Bowl. What else? And today we want to talk a little bit about the weather forecast and maybe some of the extremes that we've seen related to these games in the past. That is the focus of today's Kristen's classroom, so let's welcome in meteorologist Kristen Curry. Thank you so much for being here, and happy Friday.
Of course, happy Friday, the Friday before the big game.
This is a big day for everybody. They're getting ready for their plans. And what's great about the stadium, and we'll take a live look at that again, is that this is all contained in one place. They really won't have to deal with the elements all that much there.
It's so true. I mean, that's what's really working for them here. And it also kind of ties into sometimes where they decide to host the Super Bowl. The fact that Allegiant Stadium for those players. So I wanted to start with what's going on with the Super Bowl forecast here, because this Sunday, 5:30 p.m. kickoff, we are going to be looking at temperatures in the 50s. Now, what's important to know is we actually have some rain anticipated in the Vegas area today. All of that's going to be clearing out by the time we hit Saturday and Sunday. So we're encouraged to see temperatures in the 50s outside underneath those mostly clear conditions. We know there's going to be tailgaters. We know there's going to be people from all over going to Vegas for the big game here as we watch Kansas City take on San Francisco, Will. So this is our official Super Bowl forecast for Las Vegas, Nevada. Those temperatures expected to probably peak in the mid-50s before kickoff, somewhere around those lower 50s.
All right, and you went back and looked at kind of what some of the previous Super Bowl games have had to deal with, the players and the fans alike. So let's just run through those really quickly.
Yeah, I was curious, kind of looking at some of the Super Bowl extremes, if you will. So with the forecast that we've got on Sunday in Vegas at 55 degrees, we're probably not going to see that 55 make it into the record books. The hottest Super Bowl on record back in 1973, that was in Los Angeles, an 84-degree temperature there at the Coliseum. The coldest Super Bowl on record was in New Orleans in 1972. Now, the temperature was 39, but they had some really strong winds, so the wind chills were down into the 20s. As we've seen from this season, there is no minimum temperature for the NFL. I mean, we had a really brutal Kansas City game. I'm sure some of us remember Patrick Mahomes, the helmet breaking because it was so cold. This wasn't quite as cold as that game in Kansas City, but in New Orleans, they did have a very cold Super Bowl back in 72. Now in Miami, wettest Super Bowl on record, 2007. It picked up close to an inch of rain then, and the snowiest Super Bowl on record was in Detroit, where they had about an inch of snow on the ground outside. Ford Field, obviously, inside as well. So it makes sense that some of these NFL teams would build, the dome, so you don't have to worry about conditions like this. But, I mean, there's also Buffalo, who purposely did the outside stadium so they could play in the elements, and there is a little bit of extra fun, I think, sometimes tied to the weather not being ideal.
Extra fun may be the words, but it takes maybe a special person to be able to do that, and not only to play in it, but also to sit there and watch the game happen too as a fan.
Yeah, and that was the big discussion, with the Kansas City game we had earlier this season is it worth it, to put the fans in potential danger there with the wind chills? I mean, we were talking single-digit temperatures in that Kansas City game. And I believe, was it the Buccaneers? It was a team that was not used to cold. It was a warm climate team that was playing the Kansas City Chiefs that day. So it'll be interesting to see, with a stadium like Vegas, you're really not concerned about how weather could impact the game. But in some of those other big stadiums in the warm weather climates, you're going to have to factor that in. And that's exactly what the NFL does. I was actually reading earlier, a few years back, there was an quote-unquote rule of the Super Bowl having to be in a city where their average temperature during Super Bowl time was 50 to 60 degrees. So it eliminated a lot of the stadiums, the NFL stadiums here in the United States. It was like majority of them would be Miami, LA, and New Orleans, those three. We're talking southern states or West Coast. And nowadays with the establishments of the domes and the covers and the retractable roofs, you have Super Bowls like what we had in Minneapolis. As before, if they had an outside stadium, there's no way that the NFL would ever allow them to host a Super Bowl. But we've come a long way, I think, with the NFL maybe adjusting some of the rules and some of the stadiums getting bigger and more massive. Allegiant Stadium not that old.
All right, well, let's just give people a really quick sense about what we can expect for the Super Bowl forecast here in Austin if someone's going to hold a watch party, wants to go out and about this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I can give you the whole thing. Let's give you the whole enchilada here, and I'll show you what we're dealing with this for as the 7-day forecast goes, because there's actually going to be a lot between now and then. So if I go backwards here, hang tight, boom. Okay. So here is a look at the high temperatures, I should say, for the next 4 days. We've got temps in the 70s and then eventually those 60s for the weekend. But the rain chances that I've got for the weekend, these are going to start tomorrow morning and probably going to start Sunday morning too. 2 different rounds. So run 1, Saturday morning, Saturday midday, and then Sunday would be run 2. That's mainly going to be in the morning. So with kickoff time being so late on Sunday, I think the rain is probably going to be cleared. But those winds, those breezy conditions, those are what's going to be with us for your Super Bowl parties here in Central Texas.
All right, everybody. That is meteorologist Kristen Curry. Kristen, you've had a busy morning. You've got more visits to go to here today, right?
Yes. So, it's that time of year where we're starting to see the schools hit the curriculum in the weather unit. So I'll be headed out to Hyde Park Elementary here in just about 15 minutes, talking to their 1st and 2nd graders.
Love to see that. It's so much fun. Well, Kristen, thank you again for joining us.
Of
I hope you
course.
enjoy the rest of your weekend. Same goes for everybody out there who's watching, too. If you're watching the Super Bowl, enjoy it. Have some fun. Be safe out there, of course. And we'll see you back here at another time. Take care, everybody.